Welcome to Weld.com. We've been featuring a series of MIG Monday, MIG Welding. Today I have a real good practical application that came down from our maintenance department here at the college. Apparently they use this particular item for repairing bent hinges on doors. I've never seen it before. It looks pretty interesting. This is a it looks like double extra heavy 1-inch pipe. What's interesting here so far is this broke. It looks like material fatigue at some point in time. It really, I don't know where it started. What's odd to me when I look at something like this, here's a hole right here, a drilled hole. There's another one on the other end, and it did not start there. The tear didn't start in that area. So, you know, looking at it closely and look at some grain, maybe it started right here in the corner, in the weld. So I'm looking at this, and on this end, the first thing I notice is some undercut in the weld. But the undercut is into the real heavy wall of the pipe. Same thing on here. It's not quite as promoted on this side as it is over here on the small end. Again, that's not what caused it. I'm just looking at things. I'm analyzing things as to how I go about repairing this, making it better. I did talk to the person that brought it down. We've agreed that I'm going to go ahead and cut this back into some good material, fresh material. It's 14 gauge tubing, so it's not heavy. Length on this part doesn't matter. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this back about 1 inch or so into good material. I'm going to clean all of the paint off, and then I think I want to add, you know, looking at this thing, I'm asking him, is it okay if I put some gussets in here? So I want to add a gusset, a small piece of 1/8 inch material in 90 degrees in line with this tube here, so that we can, you know, if this thing is being bent and flexed back and forth, maybe that'll take care of some of those forces and it won't tear this piece of material again. And then we'll fit it all up and we'll weld it with the MIG welding 030 wire on our ESAB Rebel, and we'll use the 110 volt side. So I'm thinking this is going to be an interesting practical application. We'll try to do a quality repair. Obviously here at the college we try to pool resources and repair things. It's a learning thing for the students. You know, we try to save money here, and this isn't going to cost anything hardly at all to repair. Again, valuable part for the maintenance guys. We try to provide them with tools and equipment and repair their items as needed. So I'm going to get some gear on. One other thing, I noticed that this tube is, as it came off of here, it's in here, this slot is in here at an angle. Now, you know, normally when I do a repair on like a piece of cast aluminum or something that's broken, I try to just put it back the way it is, and I tack it in place so that I can hit that angle. And then I prepare the material around it, whether I V it out or groove or something, and keep retacking so that I maintain my fit. I'm not going to be able to do that with this part. So what I'm probably going to do is put a center punch line, because again, I'm getting rid of all my paint. So if I put a scratch mark up here, it's going to go away. I'll probably put a couple of series of center punches and in here as well as references. And I'll do that on two sides at 90 degrees apart. So I should be able to hit whatever this angle is. I don't know that this angle is critical, but at least I'm gonna attempt to get it back exactly the way it was. So I'm gonna prepare some material and I'm gonna put my safety gear on. We'll be back in just a few minutes. A little bit ago we were going to prepare our parts here. I said I was going to cut this off. Also said I was going to center punch it, but what I noticed was I really didn't need to, because I had mentioned some undercut into this tubing, and when I sanded this back and then I went and bead blasted it, I know exactly where it's going to go, so I just didn't need to center punch it, but normally I would. The other thing I noticed was when I cut this off, we had said that it failed through the material. I think we found our spot. I think we found why this failed. Again, it's thin wall square tubing, 14 gauge. And you'll see a real sharp line here, a real sharp split. And then when I looked at it on the inside, it's actually where the seam is, where the tubing was put together. So, you know, no big deal, but it's fun to kind of analyze how and why things break. So we have prepared this, and I've put a slight notch in this. I've sandblasted back away from the paint. I've put a slight saddle in it so that we know exactly where it goes according to the weld. Therefore, we'll fit our angle, coincides opposite of the other side. And then, after I tack this, I'm going to put a couple of small gussets in here and see if that doesn't help strengthen this thing as they use it. So I'm going to run off the Rebel machine here, 110 volts, the 110 volt output side here, or incoming side. I'm going to do 17 volts. I've turned my wire back to about 215 so I don't blow through the square tubing. I want to be hot enough that I'll wash and get into this. I may double up on this weld a little bit. Okay, I've tacked this up, and I've also added my gussets. This is really just a simple weld. I have tacked the corners, and I want to get a little bit of weld underneath here, and then I want to go down the gusset and stop on top of where I ended this weld, come across here. I want to wrap these corners around here. This is not critical at all, but it's just kind of the way that I try to make finished MIG welds when I'm repairing a part. I'm going to start up here. I'm going to stop on top of my tack, start down below it, and then I'm going to do the gusset part first. So I welded across the top. I came down underneath the tack. I put kind of a large weld up here. I was spending a little more time on the heavy tubing, but I did notice it blended into this thin wall tubing fairly well. I came up and I started over the top of the gusset and washed the corner. Came back into the corner and blended into that weld. I just kept on going. Again, it's not critical. You'll notice when I came out over the edge of this gusset, I let it wash around it and I came back through it. I don't like leaving holes around corners and stuff, so this thing's gonna weld pretty easy. This is a really good practical application for the small wire and running a little 110 volt welder. I'm liking this this is good because we're saving the college money. It makes a functional part. Well, this completes our repair. Again, we cleaned the material up. Got a pretty heavy paint job on it. You're not going to weld through it with anything. It wouldn't make a good repair if we did it with stick, and that's about the only thing that I would blast through paint with. So we prepared the material, we cut, we saddled this lightly. We put the gussets in here. I tacked up in the corners, and then I tacked the gussets in there. We just welded across the top, blended into our tack. You'll notice when I said I wrap my corners all the time. Don't like to leave the the holes, kind of a technique thing that I do, which is one of the viewer questions that we need to answer about wrapping corners or why do you backstitch, and we'll get to that. So again, these are kind of some of the things that you can do: fabricate, repair, save items, make stuff, useful tools. Very good practical application here on a portable 110 volt machine with 030 wire, C25 gas, 75% argon, 25% CO2, about 20-25 cubic feet per hour, 17 volts. I turned my wire back to about 215 because I wanted this to kind of float in and melt into this heavy tube. Just some of the settings that we can run, and we could have run a pretty good range here, but that's just what I picked. So that concludes this episode, a little demonstration on repair with 110 volt wire feed MIG. Please subscribe to the videos. Videos come out every Monday. I'm Bob Moffett with Weld.com. Thank you.